Thank you very much, Dr. B.P. Revekar, sir. Thank you very much for your nice and very appropriate introduction. Uh, First of all, I would like to thank organizers of two-day international conference on cutting-edge smart materials and nanotechnology being organized by Prayat Shikshan Sanstha, HGM College Karaj, and especially Department of Physics. Here, I would like to thank my teacher and my students for giving me this opportunity to talk in front of all of you. The first teacher is the principal of this college and the president of this conference, respected Dr. M.M. Rajmane, sir. He is my teacher. I am thankful to you, sir. My another teacher, respected Dr. J.P. Thorat, sir, who is convener of this conference. Both of them, they are my teachers. And my student, Dr. N.S. Harare, he is my student. So all these three persons, they have offered me this opportunity to talk in front of you about my research happening. I am also thankful to Redekar sir. Just now he introduced me in a proper way. I am also thankful to my colleagues, Dr. Pankaj Poddar from NCL Pune and Dr. K. Noda from K University, Japan. Because if you look at the topics which all three we are taking, all they are connected with the photoelectrochemistry. So this can be a one day, this we can call as a one day conference on photocatalysis, because my topic also is related to the photocatalysis. So without wasting your time, I would straightly share my screen, and I would like to talk about uh, so this is my first slide. Namdal, is it visible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And my voice level is
Mic
okay?
is okay. Okay, sir.
So shall I begin?
Yes, continue, sir. Please.
Okay, thank you very much. So once again, I take this opportunity to thank all the concerned who gave me this opportunity to talk in front of you at the International Conference on Cutting Edge Smart Materials and Nanotechnology. The topic of my the topic of my talk is photoelectrochemical and photocatalytic solar energy harvesting. So I would like to talk about the use of nanomaterials for solar energy harvesting and for fruitful purpose like catalysis through PEC route. So this is the topic. As I was introduced, I am head of the Department of USIC and Common Facility Center at Shivaji University, Kolhapur, and I am professor in the Department of Physics. Since last 25 years, I'm working in the field of materials science, and we are investigating in our group both kind of materials like bulk materials and thin film materials. The bulk material, they include ferrite, metal oxides; thin film, they include chalcogenide and metal oxides, and they are used for variety of applications. And many of them, they are from the frontline areas of the science and technology. And today I would like to talk about this topic, catalysis. As this catalysis, I would explain the immobile catalysis, which is based on the thin film technology. So let us begin with very simple thing of definition of the thin film. Of course, these would be very primary things to most of them, but I would suppose this, that one should know what the thin film is and how thin this thin film is. We know the thickness of the acrylic board and brass board is around 1 millimeter. The thickness of a gold or aluminum foil is around 1000 of mm, that is around 1 micrometer, and whatever below 1 micrometer is called as a thin film. So we can generally define a thin film as a material which is spread in two dimensions, which is restricted along the third dimension. And this vast field, very attractive field, it has got technological breakthroughs in various areas of science and technology, particularly recording media, semiconductor devices, light emitting diodes, optical coatings, hard coating tools, energy generation, energy storage, and pharmaceuticals.
So in my lab also, of course, there are large number of applications of thin films, but in my lab, we are looking for the applications of thin films as a transparent conducting oxide in the solar cells, in ultraviolet detectors, in gas sensors, of course, in memory stores, memory registers, and photocatalysis. So these are the few applications which we are scanning in our laboratory. So before starting, I would concentrate on the concept of TCO because my topic or the talk would be restricted, would be dedicated to the use of these transparent conducting oxides for photocatalysis. So the transparent conducting oxide, as you know, they are neither 100% optically transparent, they are not metallically conducting. So if you take a best example of the perfect conductor to be a copper, whose conductivity is of the order of 10 to the power of 5 per ohm per centimeter, it is not transparent. Of course, what I mean by transparent, it is a relative concept because this is the transparent is a transparent to either visible light or IR or UV. So I should restrict myself to the transparent to the visible light. So this copper is not transparent to the visible light, but it is high electrical conductivity. On the other hand, if you take the example of sodium chloride in its stoichiometric form, it is transparent and of course it is non-conducting, but it is transparent. So this conductivity and transparency they cannot occur simultaneously because the wavelength, plasma wavelength of this radiation E is given by 4 pi Ne square upon m, where m is the effective mass of the charge carrier. So this N and M is such that this material will allow or will not allow the visible radiation to pass through. And therefore, we need to choose the material in a such a way that its N and M is such that it transmits the visible light. In our laboratory, we have investigated many thin film materials, starting from cadmium oxide. This is the picture of photograph of cadmium oxide thin film deposited on glass substrate. Then doped cadmium oxide. This is ternary cadmium oxide. This is doped zinc oxide. This is FTO. This is ITO. So we have scanned almost all tissues, and what we see that as we go from left to right, the transparency increases, and as you go from right to left, the conductivity increases. So conductivity and transparencies they are uh, given below the each. Here, I have given the sorting of these solids, and these solids they are either semi-metals, good metals, transparent conductors, or semiconductors. We know the relation between the conductivity and mobility and carrier concentration of a solid, that is sigma is equal to Ne mu. Therefore, for given material, if we fix N and mu, the way in which sigma varies is N is equal to 1 more mu, or vice versa. Or if we fix N, then sigma varies with respect to mu linearly, etc. etc. So the simple relation I have plotted here, and I have showed the places of semi-metals somewhere here where electron density is high, mobility is very, very low. And our conventional semiconductor like silicon, gallium arsenide, their mobility is very, very high, but their electron density is very, very low, and their respective conductivities are plotted. So we for being used as a transparent conductor, we need to choose a material whose mobility is more, whose density is more, and whose conductivity are more. Therefore, so if you look at this ellipse, you will find that indium oxide, ternary indium oxide, tin oxide, and other oxides they form the basis of the transparent conducting oxide. So far as the applications of appliances based upon transparent conducting oxides are concerned, there are many. And few to mention they are UV light emitting diodes, flexible LCDs, transparent screens, defrosters, flat panel displays, then touch panel displays, solar cells. And the application, the appliance which is based upon transparent conducting oxide, which I am going to explain today, is the photocatalysis, where we utilize the property of these transparent conducting oxides for degradation of organic compounds. So what the photocatalysis is? So let us define catalysis. I'm taking the things, beginning with the things. I'm taking this time to explain the fundamental things. Catalysis is the acceleration of chemical reaction, as we know, and if we the material which is responsible for this is called as a catalyst. And if this acceleration of chemical reaction is made with the help of photons or the light, then this is called as photocatalysis. Now, the idea of this photocatalysis can be used to remove the impurities in the drinking water. We know the well-known methods of removal of or purification of water. They are filtration, water chlorination, sedimentation, slow slant filter, etc., etc. There are biological methods also. But even if we pure the water with the help of this method, we cannot remove the organic impurity, dissolved organic impurities in the water. And these organic impurities, they can be removed with the help of photocatalysis, where the byproducts, they are simply carbon dioxide and the water, where the harmful chemical, airborne particles, pollens, odor, everything can be removed with the help of photocatalysis. We know, as I said, the wastewater treatment, they are classified broadly into physical method, chemical method, or biological method and chemical method. So after doing physical and biological treatment, the chemical method, among the chemical methods, one method, advanced oxidation process, which is based upon the fact of heterogeneous photocatalysis. As far as AOP are concerned, which is one of the chemical methods of water purification, of these, I am going to focus my attention on the heterogeneous photocatalysis. Hetero means different. So if the catalysis occurs in the same medium, then it is called as homogeneous. And if it occurs at the interface between two media, for example, solid and liquid, then it is called as heterogeneous photocatalysis. So I'm going to explain the heterogeneous photocatalysis. The advanced oxidation processes, they mainly involve the treatment by ozone, ultraviolet light, and H2O2. So if you combine our photocatalysis with ozonation, with the treatment of H2O2, then it would be effective photocatalysis. What are various advantages of the photocatalysis? So it forms the replacement for the energy intensive methods. And the, as I just now told, the byproduct, carbon dioxide and water, they are harmless byproduct. Then destruction of hazardous compounds. Hazardous compounds, they can be destructed. Then mild reaction conditions and modest time. This is the another advantage of the photocatalysis. Minimum or secondary waste generation. In this case, secondary waste generation is very small. And just now we listened to Professor Noda, where he talked about the hydrogen generation with the help of photocatalysis. So let us look at the material, various prospective materials which can be used as the photocatalyst, or the material which produce or which does the photocatalysis. So the photocatalysis, as you know, is the reaction assisted by the photons in the presence of catalyst. And in the catalyst, the catalyst should be such that there should be a provision of occurrence of simultaneous oxidation and reduction. Oxidation and reduction, giving and taking of electrons. So if you take any example to be a photocatalyst, this cannot be useful because either oxidation or reduction can be possible with the help of metals, because we don't have valence band and conduction band. And so that we cannot utilize the visible light or any ultraviolet radiation for occurrence of catalysis with the help of metal. In case of insulators, if you look at the band positions, valence band and conduction bands of the insulator, so we need relatively higher energy for using these insulators in the photocatalysis. But the positions of most of the semiconductor, positions of conduction band and valence bands of the most of the semiconductors are such that they lie within or in the vicinity of the oxidation and reduction potentials of the water. So we have the prospects of only semiconductors for making use as the catalyst. So how photocatalysis happens as far as the semiconductor is concerned? So if you take an example of a semiconductor particle where valence band and conduction band is there, if you illuminate this semiconductor, which is this semiconductor particle, if it is in vicinity of the oxidized and reduced species, or you can say a redox species, or you can say a polluted water, which contains oxidizable and reducible species. If this particle is in contact with that polluted water, and if it is illuminated by electromagnetic radiation or light, whose energy is equal to or greater than the band gap energy of the semiconductor, then the electron and hole pair is generated. Electron is responsible for the reduction, capture of electron, and hole is responsible for the oxidation. And in this way, the AD chemical compound is degraded into A minus and D plus. So in this way, we can disintegrate any organic impurity which is present in the polluted water with the help of photocatalysis. But somehow, if this produced electron hole pair, if it is not used for the useful purpose, then they are going to recombine and a lot of heat is generated. And this is the more major problem in the catalysis or the efficiency of catalysis. So if we want to use a semiconductor, particularly oxide semiconductors are taken because they are chemically stable. So I have given some examples here. The list of the band positions of the several semiconductors in contact with the aqueous electrode at pH is equal to 1 is given, and the conduction band potential of a semiconductor should be more negative than the potential of the reduction reaction here, and valence band potential should be more than the potential of oxidation reaction. So if you see the positions of band positions of various semiconductor, you can see that these semiconductors like gallium arsenide, gallium phosphide, then iron oxide, tungsten trioxide, tin oxide, they are not suitable for the water splitting or what you can say for catalysis due to their band positions. These two semiconductors, they are unstable. And these semiconductors like zinc oxide, titanium oxide, silicon carbide, francium titanium, they seems to be suitable based upon the band positions. But these semiconductors also can be made suitable by tuning their band positions. So let us talk about the mobile catalysis or the powder catalysis. So you have a catalyst in the powder form and you have polluted water with it. So what you have to do, you have to immerse your photocatalyst in a water, polluted water, continuously stir that water and illuminate that water with the sunlight or the appropriate radiation. And so what happens if it happens to be a TiO2 nanoparticle or particle for catalyst, for example, then it is possible to kill viruses, remove odors, remove bacteria, remove allergens, and remove or degrade the organic impurities. So what you have to do is eliminate and continuously stir that polluted water, which is where the photocatalyst is there, and you have to take out the samples at regular interval and measure the absorbance. And UV visible spectroscopy gives you absorbance and the signature of degradation or the evidence for degradation of organic compound in the polluted water is that this is the first signature, you can say, that the positions or the intensity of the peaks in the visible, it continuously decreases. So it is possible to degrade organic impurity with the help of powder catalysis. So TiO2 is the well-studied and very well-known photocatalyst, and we have prepared the anodized phase of TiO2 and tested its use for the degradation of rhodamine B, and it is seen that with respect to time, within 40 minutes or so, almost 60% rhodamine B, this was taken as a test sample, intensity continuously decreased. But use of this TiO2 seems to be uneconomical due to its cost and availability. So zinc oxide supposed to be, it seems to be suitable alternative to the TiO2. That because they absorbs a large fraction of the solar spectrum and the photodegradation mechanism in case of zinc oxide is very similar to that of TiO2. So we prepared zinc oxide powder, and this powder was prepared via two routes, precipitation route and combustion route, of course for powder catalysis. And the powder catalysis on rhodamine B was carried out. It was seen that the powder which is nanocrystalline, due to higher surface to volume ratio, it has got large area or the large reaction sites, and therefore it takes relatively smaller time, and most of the organic impurity, 98.7% of the organic impurity, was successfully removed with the help of zinc oxide nanocrystalline powder. And this is the proposed mechanism of photocatalyst. In the photocatalyst, if, for example, if you have zinc oxide powder, and if you illuminate this zinc oxide powder with appropriate radiation, then the electron and hole pairs are generated. Electron follows this route and hole follows this route, and effectively, what you can you can write this chemical reaction as any organic impurity CNOM H2N minus 2M plus 2, when it reacts with the reactive oxygen species like H2O2, O2 dot, OH dot, forms the harmless product like CO2 and H2. But there are serious disadvantages as far as this mobile catalysis is concerned or the powder catalysis is concerned. There is a possibility of modification of catalyst. There is the possibility of occurrence of irreversible reaction with byproducts. And taking out catalyst, separation of catalyst, because once you have impure water, when you put catalytic powder and make it pure, the water is pure, catalyst remains inside the water. So taking out that catalyst is very laborious. So alternate strategy to the photocatalysis called as photoelectrocatalysis or the immobile catalysis was suggested, where we can enhance the photocatalysis by applying a potential. So we make use of the electrode system. We deposit a catalyst on a substrate, and you have counter electrode, inert counter electrode. You apply bias between them. You illuminate the junction, and then it is called as photo application of bias is electro and catalysis. So photoelectrocatalysis, and this is the effective way of charge separation. So electron hole pairs which are generated, they cannot be recombined, or we can avoid the combination of these charge carriers, and thereby increasing the efficiency of the photocatalysis. And the important advantage of this method is that there is no need of removing of the catalyst from the pure water, because catalyst is not in the powder form, it is in the thin film form. So here you can see at the bottom of the this slide I have showed the picture. So here this on the substrate photocatalyst and polluted water goes over this, and it is illuminated by radiation, and there is a provision of giving bias. In the next few slides I am going to show here. So photoelectrochemical cell, because this photo means for radiation, electro means for chemical, and this cell, it has got 3 or 4 major components. One is the photoelectrode, where photocatalyst is deposited on the thin film. We have counter electrode, which is inert metallic electrode. We have electrolyte, which is polluted water, for example, and we have appropriate radiation. The way in which this photocatalyst can be prepared in the thin film form, there are various methods, physical methods, chemical methods. The previous speakers, they have talked about the physical methods and few chemical methods also. So there are large number of chemical methods like CBD, spin coating, deep coating, Dr. Blade, other aerosol, inkjet, screen printing, slot casting, hydrothermal, CVD, so many are there. Only few I have listed. Among all these, the spray coating or spray paralysis technique has got few advantages over the other chemical methods, where the chemicals in the form of fine droplets, they are spread over the hot substrate, pyrotic decomposition occurs, and very uniform and very adherent thin films of the material to be deposited, they are formed on the substrate. So this is the traditional spray paralysis technique, where I have showed the various components of the spray paralysis technique. When the compressed air, it rises from the outer part of the nozzle, the at the tip of the nozzle, vacuum is created, and the solution in the solution tube is sucked, and it is sprayed over the hot substrate and pyrotic decomposition. This spray paralysis technique is formed to produce the oxide chemicals, and we know any oxides, they are very chemically stable against in the photocatalysis. Therefore, this method is extensively suggested for making photocatalysis. There are various temperature zones through which this droplet they go, the precipitate occurs, and then particle vapors, then nanoparticle formation is there, and then over the substrate, very uniform thin film occurs. So the size of the droplet decides the quality of the film, the structure of the film, and so that you need to control. Here results on zinc oxide, structural, optical and morphological results of the zinc oxide they are shown. So here you can see the film is highly transparent in the visible, and it is specular. Is highly crystalline along C-axis. It is C-axis oriented, which is all the rods are deposited, which are perpendicular to the substrate surface. High conductivity, you can see the conductivity is of the resistivity is of the order 10 to the power minus 2 ohm centimeter, its conductivity is 10 to the power 2 ohm per ohm per centimeter. And the origin of this high conductivity is due to the stoichiometric variation. If it would have been the perfect stoichiometric zinc oxide, then we would not have the high conductivity. Here we need high conductivity as well as transparency. The reason I will make it clear later. So zinc vacancies and oxygen deficiencies, these are responsible for getting high conductivity in case of zinc oxide. So we prepared the zinc oxide on the base transparent conducting oxide FTO on 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter. This is another advantage of pyrolysis technique. We can deposit the thin film on 10 centimeter, even more than that area, and that too uniform. So this is the deposition of FTO, and on this FTO, zinc oxide was deposited in this configuration. Where glass substrate FTO, and on that zinc oxide is there. And we have used this transparent conducting oxide and the photocatalyst, for example, zinc oxide, in parallel plate flow through PEC cell used in the backside illumination. Now you will come to know the reason why the tissues are used in this experiment. The reason is you should glass because it is a backside illumination. Otherwise, from this side, if you want to illuminate, then it has to travel this much path. And therefore, in order to illuminate your junction between catalyst and the polluted water or electrolyte, you can say, then there should be backside illumination. Therefore, glass substrate is must. And on that transparent conducting oxide, it should be conducting because there should be provision for making contacts. We need to apply a bias between this tissue and other electrode. So it should be conducting and it should be transparent. And on that, this catalyst is deposited. And the relatively impure water is pumped through this inlet, and from this outlet relatively pure water comes, and again it is circulated in the circulation bench mode with the help of peristatic pulp, and this has given bias between these two terminals via potential stat. So this is the photograph of a PEC detoxification reactor. This is one cell, and this is backside of the cell where the provision for giving bias is there, and here provision of illuminating the cell with the help of ultraviolet light. You can illuminate it with the help of visible light also. And this is the 9-cell reactor which is constructed domestically under the supervision of these two legions, Professor Michael Newman-Speller from Austria and respected Professor C.H. Bosley, his respected guide, earlier ex-head of the Department of Physics at University, Ulm. So here I would like to show you one of the small presentations. So relatively impure water, it is pumped through peristatic pump in the reactor, and this reactor has given already bias and it is illuminated, and here you get relatively pure water. And if you circulate this water, you do this experiment for 3 to 4 hours, then almost all amount of organic impurity can be removed. So how this experiment is performed, for example. So if it is a test contaminant is salicylic acid, it is taken and it is serially diluted, and the samples are taken at various intervals, for example, at 15 minutes intervals, and their spectrum, absorption spectrum is taken. What you see you see that in the absorption spectrum, the intensity of the peaks A, B, C, it continuously decreases, and this is the signature of degradation of salicylic acid. You know, if the salicylic acid, if it is circulated through the reactor, which I have showed, then it goes through various phases, and the number of chains or number of carbon atom continuously decreases due to this OH radical, and at the end, you end up with CO2 and H2. In order to see the effectiveness of your degradation process, the rate constant can be calculated. If K is high, if the slope of this graph is very high, then degradation rate is fast. If it is low, then degradation rate is low. In order to test whether you have really degraded your organic impurity or not, in addition to uh, absorption spectrum, you need to calculate the COD, chemical oxygen demand. The COD means it is proportional to amount of organic compound present in the water. So as COD decreases, and the standard dichromat method is used for measurement of COD of the samples, it is seen that with respect to time, COD continuously decreases. The COD of the potable drinking water is less than 10 mg per liter, and we could achieve the COD of the order of 6 mg per liter in 6 hours. So it was possible for us to get a potable water out of the polluted water. Well, let us talk about the various parameters which influence the photocatalysis reaction. So initial solute concentration is very important, and that you need to see in the polluted water. If it is highly concentrated, then it will take more time. If it is diluted, it will take less time. So you need to have optimum concentration. For that, you can make a serial dilution. Light intensity should not be too high or too low. It should be optimum. So we have a reactor for tracking the sun zenith a whole day, because it is a long experiment. So light intensity with respect to hour at the daytime, it is not same. So light intensity is needed to be optimum. pH should be neither it should be acidic nor it should be basic. Otherwise, what happens? If it is highly acidic, then the photocatalyst itself, they get dissolved in the solution. Therefore, we should check the pH of the solution, and it should be optimum. The photocatalyst, the temperature, reaction temperature also is very important. It should be optimum. And very important is the photocatalyst material. Its band positions, the band gap energy, then other its crystalline structure, its conductivity. So many parameters are there. So photocatalyst material, which are the various photocatalyst material people are trying, that also I am going to tell. So what are the various methods of improving the photocatalytic activity? Of course, one of the methods which I depicted, it was nanostructuring of the material. This was one. If you decrease the size of the materials, then the surface to volume ratio increases, and the efficiency of the degradation or the catalysis increases. This is one way. You can form the composite system, because if you have a high band gap system, for example, zinc oxide at TiO2, its band gap lie in UV. I'm going to show this. You need UV light. And for example, you have iron oxide or other material whose band gap which lie in the visible, but they are not chemically that much stable. So you can make a composite between these two and harness most part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So this is one possibility. Another possibility is tailoring the band gap energy of the material with the help of metal or non-metal doping. This also I'm going to explain you. There is another method of improving the catalytic efficiency, that is a dye sensitization. So various dyes, like because the dyes we know they absorb color in the visible light. Therefore, the acid radar, Erosin Y, Membromine, Rhodamine B, Rhodamine 6Z, etc., etc. These are the various dyes they can be used. Surface modification, for example, co-catalyst. The person, Professor Noda, who explained the idea of oxidation co-catalyst and reduction co-catalysis. So this idea also is very important in improving the photocatalytic activity. So one by one I am explaining. First method is the formation of a composite. So how to decide the material for composite? You have a list of the material which are extensively used as the semiconductor, and in the literature you can find this table where TiO2, iron oxide, tin oxide, zinc sulfide, zinc oxide, tungsten trioxide, and other mm, uh, semiconductors are used. So you can choose a semiconductor whose band gap lie in UV. You can choose another semiconductor whose band gap lie in visible. But you need to see other aspects of the heterojunction as well. Is it not? So which are these other aspects? You can see this is the solar spectrum where I have shown the band positions, band gap positions of the iron oxide, tungsten trioxide, titanium oxide, and zinc oxide. So zinc oxide and titanium oxide band gap lie in UV, ultraviolet, and iron oxide and tungsten oxide invisible. So there is a possibility of formation of a heterojunction, or you can say a composite between tungsten trioxide and TiO2, iron oxide and zinc oxide. Or what you can do, you can have a bilayer of tungsten trioxide and on that TiO2, for example, or zinc. So you can locate the band positions of the TiO2 and say, for example, iron oxide. You can see the band position. The bandage, it lie between the TiO2 and iron oxide, and possible charge transfer mechanism is very well understood and very well established, and you can find it in the literature. So visible light is harnessed in iron oxide, and UV light is harnessed in the TiO2. So in this way, we can increase the photocatalytic efficiency by making the composite. Another way, as I told, is the band gap engineering. You can dope TiO2, for example, thin film, with the help of metal dopant, for example. So the band position is like this, and non-metal dopant, the band position is like this, for example. So, so we can reduce the recombination rate by doping, either metallic and non-metallic. And we know the various dopants which are tried in the literature for the TiO2, they are iron, platinum, manganese, chromium, boron, all metal and non-metal. And in our case also, in our laboratory for zinc oxide, we have tried these many: iron, cobalt, nickel, indium, gallium, silver, and metal and non-metal. Okay. So certainly it is possible to reduce the band gap energy or tailor the band gap energy of the material and improve the photocatalysis. This is one way of improving the photocatalytic efficiency. Recently, they have observed that if you put your photocatalyst material with a proper dye, we know this dye are the organic compounds, and they have different colors, and this color they lie invisible. It means that they are capable of absorbing or absorbing the visible light. So few dyes I have mentioned here: acid red 44, eosin Y, membrane, rhodamine B, rhodamine 6G, etc., etc. So if you coat your photocatalyst with the appropriate dye, then it is called as dye sensitization. And therefore, the visible light, very similar to composite, visible light is absorbed in a dye, and UV light is absorbed in the catalyst. So in this way, photocatalytic efficiency can be improved. Another way is to attach to the catalyst the co-catalyst. This can be oxidation co-catalyst, or this can be reduction co-catalyst. So reduction co-catalyst trap the electron and they provide the reaction sites for reduction, and oxidation co-catalyst, it accepts holes and it produces the extra reaction sites for, and this effectively they reduce the recombination between electron and hole, and therefore most of the electron hole pair or quantum yield of the process can be improved with the help of using modification, surface modification with the help of co-catalyst and surface passivation. So you can passivate the surface with the help of various layers, oxide layer or nitride layer. And the same is the surface states which are responsible for recombination. They can be made inactive with the help of surface passivation. So with the help of our reactor, we have degraded textile effluent. Of course, we have degraded CO2 also. So these are the results of degradation of textile effluents with the help of zinc oxide. You can see before degradation, after degradation, visible infection. Of course, we have made COD measurements, BOD measurements also. Samples of the factory wastewater of sugarcane factory were collected and they were circulated through our reactor. It was seen that it is possible to detoxify the sugarcane factory wastewater with the help of reactor, which was designed in our laboratory. Even biological impurities like E. coli bacteria, which is responsible for the harmful disease like diarrhea also. So, with the help of the uh, method which we have developed in our laboratory, it is possible to kill the E. coli bacteria also. Of course, I'm sorry, the number of dots on this petri dish, they are not visible later on, but we can see that here there are more dots, and as you go within 2 hours, all the E. coli bacteria they will kill. So it is possible to remove biological impurities also. So based on our work, we have published until now 2 review articles in 2013 one and recently in 2021. And the systems which we have studied in our group, Electrochemical Materials Laboratory, ECML group, they are benzoic acid, methyl orange, toluene, salicylic acid, 4-CP, oxalic acid, methylene blue, AO7, eosin Y, rhodamine B, starch, lactic acid, phthalic acid, textile effluent, factory wastewater, E. coli Davis, and seawater. And this is the list of the publications. Since last 10 years, we are constantly working on various oxide semiconductor materials for photocatalysis, and the most of the material which we have used, they are TiO2, iron oxide, zinc oxide, tungsten trioxide, their doping, composite formation, and most more. And recently, we are working on this ternary oxide, Bi2WO6 as well. So if you search through the literature, the most of the catalyst materials which are the oxide materials or metal oxides or their composites. And recently they are trying the composites between organic. They have organic inorganic combination also. And the other materials like RGO, WS2, CNT, and GCNT, which are useful in photovoltaic water splitting, they are used in catalysis also. So out of these, we have scan TiO2, zinc oxide, iron oxide, tungsten trioxide, WC, TiO2, WO3, iron oxide, zinc oxide, composites, etc. As far as research trend and opportunities in this field are concerned, you can look at the materials like copper oxide because its band gap is invisible. This is very prospective material. Then we have carbon nitride, graphite carbon nitride. This material also is attracting their researcher attention for its band gap. Bismuth vanadate also another material. Just by engineering their band positions, people they are working on this bismuth vanadate also. So these are a few prospective materials to use in as the photocatalyst. Of course, organic semiconductors also are used in the catalysis. Organic inorganic combination composites are also used. So this also can be looked as a future prospects of this catalysis field. So these are the gentlemen to whom I would like to acknowledge at the very end of my lecture. So these are the contributors to the work on photocatalysis in ECEMO. Professor Michael Newman-Speller, who is from Austria. Recently, he is working in Czech Republic, Prague. Praveen Shinde, he is our alumni, our group member, who is working in USA. Sambhaji Shinde, he is working in South Korea. Dr. Sanpa, he is in Baramati. Moite also is in Baramati. Santosh Mohite, he worked in China. Mahadev Mahadik, who is in South Korea. Yuvraj Hunge, who is in Japan. And Surya Vichi. And these are the two students who are currently working in our group. And this group was constantly headed and continuously guided and motivated under the supervision of respected Professor C.H. Bhosle. So the help and the blessings of Professor C.H. Bhosle, they are highly acknowledged, without whom this was not possible. And this is my research group. Until now, 14 research students, they have completed their PhD under my guidance, and few 4-5 students, they are working under my guidance. So, friend, the coronavirus pandemic has a lot of dark side, as we know, and Professor P.S. Patel also talked about this. But no matter how serious and sad all this is, you must know, my building, it is sealed twice and still I am taking lecture here. So the corona is not doing anything to me. It is not inhibiting me by, from taking lecture. So we should always look on the bright side of life. So hope all of you have liked my lectures, and here I have given my um, web portal address, email address, and other um, credentials where you can visit my, you can have access to my publications. So I take this opportunity to thank all organizers and all patient listeners and participants for patiently listening my lecture. I would be very happy if you have any questions to answer. Redekar sir. Redekar sir.
Okay, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, well, Professor Rajpur has covered a very important topic of health concern, the water treatment, in a very lucid manner and language, as well as interesting manner with illustrative slides. He has discussed the role of metal oxides like TiO2 ZNO in photocatalysis. He has also discussed at length the various aspects in this regard. He has covered the various applications of this particular method, various methods of improving photocatalysis, etc. Now, the session is open for discussion. If there are any questions in the chat box, or if one wants to ask directly, the session is open for discussion. Now, over to the technical team.
Sanjay Latte is interested. Sanjay, ask the question.
Unmute, sir. Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir. It was very nice presentation by you, as usual. Sir, I have one question about in photocatalysis, in conjunction with TiO2, when we talk about the TiO2 for the methylene blue degradation.
Okay.
UV light is used for the activation of TiO2, and then it will degrade the methylene blue. So sometimes what happens means it is observed that, and the discussion is made in the scientific community that the UV degrades the methylene blue.
Exactly. You are right. Only if you illuminate methylene blue with the UV light in absence of catalyst, then also it is possible to degrade the dye. So it is a property of this UV light and the energy which is responsible for breaking the bonds in the organic compound, and therefore it is obvious that it is possible to degrade this dye, but not to 100%, and the degradation efficiency is very low. So in addition to UV light, illumination by UV, then two way we are benefited. So there is a degradation due to UV and there is a degradation due to catalyst.
I see. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
From Vaishnavi Bandare, 1 minute, I have one question. How to effectively use, 1 minute, Vaishnavi Bandare, how to effectively use photocatalysis process to produce valuable product? So what do you mean by this, Vaishnavi? Vaishnavi, what do you mean by this? How to effectively use photocatalysis process to produce valuable product? So what kind of products you are looking for? Are you looking for any gadget? Because this is altogether a different method of treating wastewater. You see, even if you take an example of any water, mineral water which we get, so in that also we are not sure whether organic impurity will be there or not. So even we have circulated that water in our reactor, it was found that there was organic impurity. Next question.
You can check the chat box.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Namdev.
Two more questions in chat box.
Anybody, you can directly ask the question.
Okay.
Dada, do you have any question?
Yes. Participant can directly ask the question.
Professor Noda, do you have any question? Because our topic.
Yes,
Yes, please.
Please.
Can I? Yeah.
Please.
So
Sure. I
at
will be
last part,
happy.
okay. At last part of your talk, you mentioned about carbon nitride materials.
Yeah.
So are you interested in, fabricating carbon nitrides? Do you
Yeah,
agree?
I'm interested. Certainly, I'm interested, and I would like to extend my work to organic, inorganic composite materials, and particularly carbon nitride material. Of course, I'm interested in water splitting also, but that would be a later part. But right now, I'm interested in using this carbon nitride material in photocatalysis.
Yeah.
That is my future prospect, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any question?
Sir, good afternoon, sir. I have one more question, sir. Are you hearing me, sir?
Yes. You are
Hello.
audible.
Sir, sir, my question is, there is a band gap range that is 3.2 something is in the UV light, and 3.8 all this something in the visible light you are telling. And for 3.8 electron volt band gap semiconductors, whether we cannot use UV light for photocatalytic activity study.
No, you see, with the help of simple relation E is equal to h nu, you can find out for corresponding wavelength. You have corresponding energy, and you can look at whether this energy is in UV or it is in visible.
Visible range. Okay.
So the material like TiO2, like zinc oxide, their band gap is in UV, and the material like say cadmium sulfide or iron oxide or tungsten trioxide, their band gap is invisible. So if you make a composite between these two, then it is possible to harness both UV as well as visible. So simple.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You got your point?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Power sir, would you like to ask any question? Because I saw he appeared for a time.
There is one another question.
Nama, you ask the question from the chat box.
Yes, can. What is the biggest responsibility to the photocatalyst in the synthesis of nanotechnology application?
What is biggest?
Responsibility. Photocatalyst in the synthesis of nanotechnology application. He is asking what behavior or nature of photocatalyst.
Responsibility in what terms? What do you mean by responsibility?
Biggest responsibility to photocatalyst to synthesis of nanotechnology application. The question.
Redekar, have you understood the question? Can you elaborate and then I can answer?
The responsibility he is asking.
So what do you mean by
responsibility? In this regard, I don't know.
That is very.
In this regard, I don't know.
Is the role of photocatalysis?
Like behavior and nature of photocatalysis.
So it is very important because this photocatalysis will be a very interesting and very attractive field in the future research because it is related to the health concern and water treatment. Therefore, the prospect is very high and people need to rush to the research on taking the career in the research on the photocatalysis.
Another one question, sir. Dr. Spiri is asking what type of polymer used in photocatalysis?
This was one of the aspects in my presentation that if you hello.
Yes, continue, sir.
Namak cut होते तुझा आवाज. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So
continue.
if you decrease the size of particle size of your photocatalyst, then surface to volume ratio will certainly increase and it will create more active sites for photocatalysis to happen. Therefore, certainly, if you prepare catalyst in the form of nanocrystalline material and if you decrease the size of the photocatalyst, certainly it will be helpful. So in what terms it will be helpful? For example, now for purification of 1 liter of water, if you take 2 hours or so, in nanocrystalline case, it will take 1 hour or even less than that. So if we can save our time, the process will be faster.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Can I ask one question?
I have one simple question.
Sir, somebody is asking. Redekar, sir, I will ask.
Yes. Okay. Continue.
Yes.
Please ask your question. Hello. Somebody was asking the question. Who was that?
Yes.
Sir, I'm audible.
Yes, you are
Yes,
audible.
yes,
Please
yes,
ask
please
your
ask.
question.
Sir, I would like to know about the biosensor, about fabrication of biosensor at the laboratory scale for the wastewater treatment. Can you suggest some in one of them? Biosensor, sir, for the wastewater treatment.
No, biosensor for wastewater treatment, that is different field. This photocatalysis is based upon harnessing the electromagnetic radiation with the help of photocatalyst.
Okay, sir. But what can be done for the wastewater treatment, sir?
What can be
done for the wastewater treatment?
So wastewater treatment, you have physical methods, then biological methods, and after that, at the end, you need to use the chemical method. And among these chemical methods, this advanced oxidation process is the last one.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Another point which I would like to make, which I forgot to mention in my lecture, is that somebody would have asked the question like, sir, you mentioned that it takes some 3 hours. If you connect all your cells in series, say 100 cells in series, for example, is it possible to have the time to be 10 minutes or so? Yes, it is possible. But the very challenge of the research or in front of the researcher is not creating not decreasing the time of degradation, but creating capable, eligible catalyst, which are 100 in numbers. That is very difficult or tedious task. Sir, Relekar sir, your question, please.
Hello.
My simple
Can I ask
question
one
is,
question?
while using the metal oxides, is there any toxic or hazardous concern in this particular process?
Yes, it is there if metal is in elemental form, sir. If it is in oxide form, no hazardous concern.
Thank you.
Somebody was asking.
Is there any question?
Yeah. I'm asking one question. Please, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
It's very informative lectures and very nice lecture. I have listened and for list.
Can you please tell your name? Can you please tell your name and from where you are speaking?
I'm from Delhi University.
Okay.
Dr. Sanjeev. Dr. Sanjeev.
Thank you.
But I have very simple question. Everyone is writing, sir, the RVT unit of intensity in XRD especially, but when we are writing in theory, just the intensity is unit, the candela and something like that. So what is the logic is behind that? What is the physics behind this? Can you elaborate?
Which one?
RVT unit we are writing. Now everyone is writing on paper. The RVT unit of intensity in XRD.
So what do you think? What it should be?
Can you explain? Then I
you answer. You give me answer, then I will explain.
Actually, I think so.
Okay, let's move to the next one.
We will move.
Sorry.
You tell the answer.
Now, first you tell me, then I will tell you what is the reason.
No, you see, this XRD intensity can be theoretically calculated, and this XRD intensity can be experimentally measured. These are the two things. Okay. Yeah. Therefore, in order to compare these two intensity, we need to normalize this intensity to a same level. That is the reason why, if we normalize this intensity, then it is called as arbitrary intensity.
Sorry, sir.
If it is not normalized, then this XRD intensity is counts per second, for example.
Okay, that means when suppose we are a sample of ZNO, suppose. So we are doing the same ZNO sample one time and two time. So we got the same pattern of XRD. So I think this is the reason maybe we are writing the RVT unit.
Okay. Next question, Redekar sir, please.
Hello, sir. I have two questions, sir.
I think this will be the last one.
This will be the last question. We will take last question. Of course, there are other questions also. Jay Chavan has asked, Sneha Lavute also has asked, but the lady who is asking question, we will allow her. And that will be the last question.
Okay, sir. Actually, the product of dye degradation we got is CO2 and H2O. So, and other hand, people are trying to reduce the CO2 for decrease the content of CO2. So, what can you say about the controversy of that means
No,
CO2?
it is not controversy. Increasing CO2 percentage in the atmosphere is leading to many hazardous effects that we know. But the production of CO2 in this case, along with water, is not that much. What you can say, it will not add to the amount of CO2 which we are putting in through the factory wastewater or the factory outlets and other things. Is it not? So this is a relatively less amount, but this can be used for other fruitful purposes. This CO2 produced here, this can be, we have some coupled project on this.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
And one more question, sir. The final product of that degradation means CO2 and H2O. So, how can we detect the CO2 evolved from this process? Mean which
There are standard methods which are available in the literature. We can detect its CO2. Hello.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Revakar sir.
Harare sir,
Please.
the number of questions is the clear indication that the participants have listened Professor Rajpure's lecture very keenly.
Yes,
So, on behalf of the organizers and all the participants, I thank Professor Rajpuri sir for his wonderful talk and the interaction session.
Thank
He
you,
has
sir.
cleared almost all doubts. For more information, one may contact him on his email. He has
Right.
already shared his email and phone number also.
Yeah.
I also thank the organizers of this conference, International Conference of Cutting Edge Smart Materials and Nanotechnology, Principal Dr. Rajmani sir, Dr. Thoras sir, and all the team AGM for giving me this opportunity to chair this session. Thank you. Thank you one and all.
Thank you,
Harare,
sir. Thank you, Rajpur sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
So
you, Revakar sir.
I will be available for next session also.
Yes, okay.
Sir.